Leon Carter inhaled sharply as he stepped off the shuttle's boarding ramp and into the hangar of the Galactic Warfare Institute, known universally as GWI. The institute was housed on a massive orbital station circling the planet Tressa V, one of the central worlds in the Interstellar Alliance. The first thing Leon noticed was the low, resonant hum permeating the air, machinery, power conduits, and the ever-present hum of artificial gravity plating. It was just slightly off from Earth standard, which made his movements feel either too light or slightly wobbly at random moments. He wondered if this was an intentional choice by GWI's administration to keep cadets on edge, or perhaps it was simply a byproduct of mixing so many species' gravity preferences. He stepped aside to let two bulky trainees in exosuits pass. They looked like they might be from the Rithner system, broad shoulders, thick limbs, scaled crests on their heads. One of them shot him a quick glance. Leon pretended not to notice. After all, he was used to stares. Ever since the moment it was announced that a human, an honest-to-goodness Homo sapiens from a small planet called Earth, had been admitted to GWI, the rumor mill had exploded. Some found it intriguing, others found it laughable. He carried a single duffel bag containing his personal effects. Everything else, uniforms, training gear, weapons, would be provided by the Institute. With a final deep breath, he followed the signs leading to the orientation hall. The corridor leading away from the hangar was wide enough to accommodate the largest known Alliance species, and the walls were interspersed with holographic display panels showing GWI's motto in multiple languages: strength through unity, victory through understanding. The main orientation hall was a vast chamber with tiered seating, swirling with voices in dozens of alien tongues. Leon had some experience with translator implants back home, but the one he wore now was a special model developed by the Alliance, capable of real-time translation for nearly every known language. As he found a seat near the edge, he couldn't resist marveling at the diversity around him. A group of Averiks with feather-like appendages on their arms, a tall being with four jointed legs, an elongated torso he couldn't identify, and even a pair of bristling, armor-plated forms that he thought might be Trexans or Brutax. He was still shaky on which species was which. In the center, a raised platform stood empty, presumably for the Institute staff who would address them. Just as Leon was settling into his seat, a voice beside him said, "You must be the human." He turned. A woman, if that was the correct term, sat next to him. Her skin was a soft shade of aqua blue, faintly luminous in the hall's artificial light. Her eyes were slightly larger than a human's, and her pupils shaped like elongated ovals. She wore the standard GWI cadet uniform, the same dark gray Leon had on, but adapted for her shape. "I guess you were Leon Carter," she went on, her tone curious rather than mocking. "Your posture and expressions are very telling." "My name is Kiara Nera." Leon managed a small smile. "That obvious, huh?" "Yes," Kiara said, smiling in return. "But don't worry. Many here are curious. You're from Earth, yes?" "Guilty as charged." "And you?" he asked. "I'm Sisun," she replied. "We have a cultural emphasis on intelligence and psychological assessment. It's partly why I recognized you so quickly." She paused, her luminous eyes flickering. "I'd love to study your species' emotional patterns sometime, if you wouldn't mind. We know so little about humans." Leon tried not to show his unease. He nodded politely. "Sure, I'm just trying not to be the center of attention." Before she could respond, a hush fell over the hall as a tall figure stepped onto the platform. It wore a formal GWI officer's uniform and had a stern expression that transcended species. Leon guessed it was a Sartharian, given its elongated skull and dark, glossy skin. "Welcome, cadets," it began in perfectly translated standard. "I'm Commandant Raltor. Today begins your official induction into the Galactic Warfare Institute. Each of you has passed preliminary tests in your home systems, or in the case of those from less established worlds, you have been given special dispensation to prove yourselves here. GWI holds the highest standards of academic and combat excellence." Leon felt every eye in the hall intensify its focus. He wondered if some of them were glancing at him in disbelief, silently questioning how a human had gotten this far. The commandant continued. Over the next few weeks, you will undergo physical evaluations, advanced theoretical warfare courses, and an all-important combat aptitude test. Many of you will find it challenging, but that is the point. If you cannot handle GWI's rigors, you will be dismissed. There is no shame in failing, only in not giving your best. Those last words echoed solemnly in the hall. Leon saw a flicker of motion in the corner of his eye. Seated a few rows ahead was a hulking figure with thick grayish skin, ridges on his forehead, and a surly expression. He looked back at Leon with a sneer. Instantly, Leon felt a twinge of anxiety. He guessed that was a Brudak, a species famed for brute strength in battle. The Brudak turned around again, as if ignoring Leon's existence. Following that brief orientation, the hall began to empty. Kiara excused herself, promising to speak again soon. Leon made his way toward the exit, only to feel a firm tap on his shoulder. "You the Earthling?" The voice was deep and gruff. Leon turned to see the same Brudak who had thrown him a contemptuous look earlier. Ralik Draver. He introduced himself with a lift of his chin. Leon offered his name in return. "Human, I have never met one in person. Is it true you can't lift your own body weight under Alliance standard gravity?" Ralik's ridged brow furrowed in what might have been mock concern. Leon forced a calm expression, though he felt bristling annoyance. "I can handle it just fine." Ralik rumbled. "We'll see." Then he brushed past Leon, as if already dismissing him. Leon exhaled slowly. Welcome to GWI, he thought. This was going to be an uphill battle. He spent his first afternoon settling into the dormitory wing assigned to new cadets. The corridors branched into pods of 6 single rooms each, connected to a communal lounge. Leon's room was small and Spartan. Bed, desk, a closet containing the universal cadet uniform. With minimal personal items, it took him less than half an hour to unpack. He was halfway through skimming the digital guide on GWI regulations when a chime sounded at his door. On the other side stood an Averix cadet. Leon recognized the trademark feather patterns along the newcomer's forearms. Averix tended to be tall and slender, with keen eyesight and extremely fast reflexes. This one gave a slight nod. "Hello," the Averix said. "I'm Xerax. I just moved into the room across the corridor. Heard there was a human in the wing." "Leon Carter," Leon replied. "Nice to meet you." "Likewise." Xerax's voice carried a soft, lilting quality. "I'm not here to bother you. Just wanted to say hi. I imagine you have a lot to adjust to." His eyes flicked around, almost avian in their intensity. Leon appreciated the friendly tone. "Yeah, it's overwhelming, to be honest. But I'll manage." Xerax offered a quick grin. "Well, if you need tips on day 1 survival, let me know. I hear tomorrow's physical orientation is a rude awakening for anyone not used to Brudak-level expectations." Leon suppressed a grimace. "I'm sure I'll find out soon." After a bit more small talk, Xerax excused himself, wishing Leon luck. That night, Leon slept fitfully, haunted by the notion that he was physically outclassed by many species here. He reminded himself that Earth had its own unique strengths. Humans have been forging survival strategies for eons, despite lacking the natural armor, the imposing size, or the advanced evolutionary gifts of other species. Perhaps intelligence and adaptability would count for something at GWI. When the alarm woke him at dawn, he dressed in the standard training suit, an adjustable uniform that conformed to body shape, and followed the rest of the new cadets to the training grounds. This vast area was subdivided into sections: gravitational weights, agility courses, zero-G simulators, and more. Instructors barked commands in multiple languages, though Leon's translator made them all comprehensible in real time. Ralik Draver was among the crowd, towering over many. He shot Leon a sneer when their eyes met. Leon forced himself to ignore it. They began with endurance runs on a track that automatically adjusted its gravity to the midpoint of Alliance standard, which was heavier than Earth's. The moment Leon started jogging, he felt the difference. He tried to maintain a steady pace, refusing to let his pride falter. Some of the heavier species seemed unaffected, bounding forward with powerful strides. But interestingly, certain lighter-framed aliens looked just as taxed as Leon. Everyone had their own discomfort. By the end of the run, Leon was panting heavily, sweat pouring down his face. His time was far from the worst in the group, but definitely not near the top. Rollick breezed in well ahead of him. When Leon finally crossed the finish line, Rollick was standing off to the side, arms crossed. "I expected worse," he said, almost grudgingly. "But you'll need better than that to survive the next tests." Leon walked off to catch his breath. The next portion involved upper body strength tests, pulling oneself up onto platforms at different gravitational intensities. Leon managed moderately, but nothing spectacular. Again, not last, but nowhere near competing with Rollick or others who could vault up with ease. Kiara, he noticed, had a more graceful approach, using her limber frame to minimize brute strength requirements. The Sisun apparently compensated for her own moderate strength by using careful angles, handholds, and momentum. After a short break, they proceeded to the weapon familiarity range. This was the part Leon had looked forward to. He trained with Earth's modern firearms, but GWI used energy-based weapons with advanced targeting systems. The instructor, a tall biped with insectoid features, explained that cadets would try a standard rifle, a sidearm, and if time permitted, a heavier turret. The range was lined with motion target drones that zipped unpredictably in the air. One by one, cadets took positions. Leon watched an 8-limbed alien with a calm, methodical approach take aim and drop target after target. Impressive. Another cadet, possibly from Vexen, slammed bolts of energy at the drones with unerring accuracy. Then it was Leon's turn. He lifted the rifle, letting the weight settle into his hands. The training officer indicated the safety protocols, then signaled the drones to release. A whir of mechanical wings and swirling lights filled Leon's view. He narrowed his eyes, tracking the first target. With a controlled breath, he squeezed the trigger. The bright bolt of energy zipped out, clipping the drone's side. It crackled and fell. Then the second drone soared overhead. Leon pivoted smoothly and fired. Another direct hit. Something about these weapons felt oddly intuitive to him. Earth firearms had recoil, ballistic arcs, noise. The GWI energy rifles were more precise, and Leon's practiced sense of timing and aim translated well. Within moments, he cleared the sequence with only 2 misses. When the scoreboard flashed, Leon's accuracy was in the upper range. Not the absolute top, but certainly competitive. A sense of relief flooded him. He noticed a few onlookers, including Xerax, who gave an approving nod. Even Rollick furrowed his brow slightly, as though puzzled that the human had done better than expected. The day ended with a caged ring for practicing basic unarmed combat. Leon's relief vanished when he realized they would be paired up to spar. The instructor, a broad-chested reptilian, barked, "We're not expecting mastery from you new cadets. We simply want to see how you handle yourself under pressure." Then he proceeded to assign pairs. Leon found himself face-to-face with none other than Rollick Draver. Leon tried to keep his composure, but dread coiled in his stomach. Rollick's brawny arms bulged with muscle, and his ridged skin looked painfully tough. The instructor gave the signal. Rollick wasted no time, launching forward with a powerful lunge. Leon had only a second to dodge, narrowly avoiding a blow that likely would have ended the match instantly. Leon circled, trying to read Rollick's movements. If brute force was all Rollick had, Leon might use speed and technique to outmaneuver him. Another blow came in. Leon ducked, aimed to strike at Rollick's torso, but it felt like hitting a concrete wall. Pain flared in Leon's knuckles. Rollick's laugh rumbled. "Fragile human bones," he mocked. Leon tried again, feinting left then pivoting right. But Rollick anticipated it, grabbing Leon's arm and twisting. Leon cried out as he felt himself lifted and slammed onto the mat. The spar ended with Leon pinned. The instructor clacked a device that signaled the end of the match. Rollick released him, standing tall, expression smug. From the sidelines, a group of cadets had gathered. Some wore faces of sympathy, others mild amusement. Kiara watched with concern. Xerax shook his head. Leon swallowed his embarrassment, reminding himself that one spar didn't define him. But as Rollick walked off, Leon caught the muttered words, "Pathetic." That night, sleep was even harder to come by than the night before. His body ached from the ring, and he couldn't help replaying the day's humiliations. While he'd done decently in marksmanship, the physical differences between humans and certain advanced species loomed large. If this was day one, how would he survive the rest? He found an unexpected ally in Kiara. Early the next morning, she intercepted him in the corridor. "Leon, I noticed you struggling yesterday with the ring match. If you'd like, I can help you analyze your opponent's movements better. I'm no physical powerhouse either, but I've studied Averick's agility techniques." Leon hesitated, then nodded gratefully. Anything was better than repeating the previous day's fiasco. They spent an hour in a smaller practice room. Kiara explained how to maximize one's stance, how to predict an opponent's motion by subtle cues. She had an uncanny knack for reading behavior. Meanwhile, Leon revealed a bit about Earth's martial arts background, particularly how humans historically overcame stronger foes through leverage, angles, and unpredictability. "You're not as weak as they assume," Kiara observed at one point, stopping mid-explanation. "Humans must have some evolutionary advantage. Perhaps your resilience and quick adaptation to new methods. Don't let them define you as fragile." Her encouraging words fortified him. Over the course of the next few days, Leon steadily improved. He fared decently in firearms practice, discovered he was agile enough on the obstacle courses, especially once he adapted to the shifting gravity and began employing more cunning in the sparring sessions. He didn't win every time, but each match ended with him lasting longer or finding clever counters. Rollick still sneered at him, but the open mockery began fading when Leon managed a near-flawless day at the rifle range. Even some of the instructors made offhand remarks about the human's surprising aim. A week in, the entire cohort was summoned to an auditorium for an important announcement. Colonel Shard, a stoic Averix with plumage dyed in official black and silver stripes, addressed them in a clipped manner. "Cadets, you have passed the preliminary stage. Congratulations. The next challenge is the Combat Aptitude Test, an advanced simulation of realistic battle scenarios." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Leon felt his heart pound. He'd heard about these tests from rumor. Full-scale illusions that shifted terrain, required tactical planning, and demanded both survival instincts and teamwork. GWI used these scores to rank cadets and decide who continued in specialized programs. "The simulation," Colonel Shard continued, "is not meant to trick you with illusions alone. It is a comprehensive scenario generator. You may find yourself in dense jungle, city ruins, or zero-G environments. The AI will adapt to your tactics. You are free to approach it however you wish, but your final score depends on your ability to meet or exceed certain mission objectives. Fail to accomplish the objectives, you fail. Simple. We begin in 3 days. Use your preparation time wisely." Leon's roommate Wing erupted in conversation that evening. Xerax was excited. "This is what Averts excel at, speed and cunning. I can't wait to see the final ranking." Kiara was more composed. "Beware the AI's psychological unpredictability. It learns from your strategies." Rollick scoffed. "I plan to go in, smash the drones, and move on." Overthinking leads to hesitation. His gaze flicked to Leon. "No offense, human, but your cleverness won't help if they corner you." Leon bit back a retort, instead focusing on his plan to research the simulation's prior known patterns. The next few days were a blur of intense training. Leon spent hours in the library pods, reading about previous top performers. Many approached the simulation with raw firepower, but some overcame by stealth or creative tactics. He guessed that the AI's biggest advantage was systematic analysis of the situation. If he could outsmart it, that might offset his lack of physical dominance. Finally, the day came. The cadets gathered in a staging area outside the sealed chamber. The atmosphere buzzed with tension. An instructor explained how each cadet would enter the simulation individually, though the environment might replicate encounters with drone squads or holographic teammates. The The results would be tallied automatically. Once your time concluded, you emerged, and the next cadet entered. Rollick went earlier than Leon, emerging after 15 minutes with a thin sheen of sweat, a triumphant grin. Not bad, was all he would say. But Leon could see the scoreboard had updated, and Rollick's name was near the top of the list with an impressive combat efficiency rating. Various other cadets cycled through, some returning looking shaken or furious. The scoreboard changed with each attempt. Leon's turn arrived. He stepped into a circular platform that locked him in place as the simulation began. Cadet Leon Carter, human, entering, announced a synthetic voice. The door slid open, revealing the swirling environment inside. Immediately, he found himself in a simulated urban ruin, reminiscent of Earth's old war zones, but with some alien architecture mixed in. The sky overhead flickered with lightning. Debris cluttered the streets. A readout on Leon's visor indicated he had multiple objectives: secure a designated vantage point, neutralize a certain number of enemy drones, and rescue a holographic hostage from deeper in the city. Failure to accomplish any objective would lower his score significantly. He advanced cautiously, rifle at the ready. The wind howled between broken spires. Without warning, a volley of energy pulses raked the air. Leon dove behind a chunk of collapsed wall. He counted the shots, 4 drones probably. They seemed to be coordinating to flank him. Leon peered around an edge and fired, downing one. Another soared overhead, peppering the area with suppressing fire. He rolled to new cover, heart hammering. The AI was no joke. These drones might lack raw intelligence, but they had swift reflexes and network communications. He forced himself to slow down. Instead of trying to outmuscle them, he began analyzing. Each time he popped out to draw fire, the drones moved systematically. They regrouped, advanced in a certain formation. He set a mental trap. He made it appear as though he was retreating deeper into a collapsed building, leaving a false trail. The drones followed the clue, splitting into pairs. Leon looped around through a half-intact corridor to come up behind them. 2 precise shots took out the rearmost drones. The others spun in surprise, but Leon had the angle advantage. A few more bursts of rifle fire, and they were done. The scoreboard in the corner of his visor flickered, awarding him points for neutralizing the squad. He smiled grimly. Next objective, vantage point. He sprinted across the battered street, mindful that more drones could appear any second. The vantage point was an old tower, half collapsed. A rickety staircase snaked around it. Leon scaled it carefully, ignoring the dull ache in his arms. The gravity felt slightly heavier than normal again, a trick of the simulation. The top of the tower was missing, replaced by jagged rebar and exposed beams. He crouched behind the twisted metal to scan the sector below. Sure enough, more drones roamed the opposite block. He activated a small targeting interface. If he took them out from here, that would help him reach the hostage unopposed. But the AI must have anticipated a sniper approach. The moment he fired on the first drone, an anti-sniper turret hummed to life atop a distant building. Leon cursed as a lethal beam sizzled past him. He dropped flat, hugging the tower's debris for cover. The next shot from that turret tore through the metal next to him, scorching a hole inches from his face. He scrambled back, searching for a vantage to disable the turret or at least blind it. An idea struck him. He crawled to a gap and shot at a line of unstable rubble perched on a neighboring rooftop. The energy blast dislodged the broken columns, sending them toppling onto the turret's position. A cascade of heavy debris smashed the turret, neutralizing it in a shower of sparks. Leon popped up just in time to see half the drones below also get caught in the collapse, losing track of him. Seizing the opening, he fired systematically, mopping up the survivors. His visor updated again. Vantage point objective partially complete. Enemy resistance lowered. Next came the rescue. The simulation indicated the hostage was being held in an underground corridor. Leon climbed down the tower's remains, picking a route that avoided the hot spots. He encountered another wave of drones in the city square. This time, they seemed more cautious, scanning thoroughly. The AI had realized he was too unpredictable to confront in a standard formation. Leon decided on a different approach. He set a delayed energy grenade near an old vehicle husk, then circled around to a vantage behind them. As the drones advanced on the decoy position, the grenade detonated, scattering them. In the confusion, Leon slipped through, taking minimal fire. He dropped into the underground access hatch and found the hostage zone. 2 advanced drones guarded the area. These looked heavier and carried larger arm cannons, presumably the final hurdle. Leon studied the layout. It was a cramped tunnel, only partially lit. A direct assault would be suicidal. Instead, he tapped a few commands into a console, drawing power from the overhead lights. The corridor went dark. The drones activated their searchlights, but that revealed them more than it did Leon. He maneuvered behind a support pillar, inhaled, then rushed one of them, firing at close range. It tried to pivot, but he was too quick, landing a perfect shot into its sensor array. The second drone whirled, slamming an energy burst into his flank. Pain shot through his side, but the suit absorbed most of it. He gritted his teeth, dropped to one knee, and fired upward. The volley punched a hole in the second drone's core. Sparks flew. It collapsed in a smoking heap. Leon's visor flashed success. He cleared the corridor to the hostage's cell, a holographic figure that shimmered in the gloom. He tapped the release. Mission accomplished. A moment later, a klaxon sounded, signaling the end of the simulation. Reality flickered, and Leon found himself back in the staging platform, panting, adrenaline pumping. He made his way out, ignoring the dull ache in his arms and the fading burn in his side. Outside, several cadets were waiting, curious. Leon glanced at the scoreboard overhead. For a moment, his heart stopped. His name shot into the top tier, surpassing even Rollick Dravers by a wide margin. The display read Leon Carter, number 2 out of 46 for overall performance thus far, though it was still updating. That was unbelievably high. Shock rippled through those gathered. Rollick's face twisted with anger and disbelief. A low rumble passed his lips, but he said nothing directly to Leon. Kiara, who was standing nearby, clapped quietly, her eyes lighting up with amazement. Xerax whistled. Leon's own mind was a swirl. How had he managed that? He must have racked up a huge tactical bonus for using the environment and outthinking the AI. Pride and relief warred within him, but mostly he just felt tired. By the day's end, when all the cadets had taken their turn, Leon's final position was number 3 overall among the new arrivals. That was still higher than nearly everyone had expected for a so-called frail human. The top slot belonged to an insectoid species rumored to have near-telepathic coordination with hive-based tactics. Rollick placed number 5, a strong performance but overshadowed by Leon's. The tension was palpable. The instructors posted a follow-up announcement. Your combat aptitude test results will guide us in sorting you into specialized courses next week. Leon parted ways with Xerax and Kiara, each congratulating him. Rollick brushed by him with a scowl, muttering something about cheating or tricks. But Leon didn't let that sour his mood. He had proven something important, that humans, with cunning and adaptability, could excel. In the following days, the instructors assigned courses based on these ranks. Leon found himself placed in an advanced module on asymmetric warfare, taught by an older, bipedal Sartharian known as Major Shield. She had piercing yellow eyes that seemed to see through every facade. On the first day, she addressed Leon in front of the class. Carter, the human cadet, correct? I've heard rumors of your performance in the simulation. You rely on improvisation, misdirection, and environment exploitation. While that can be effective, we'll see if you can refine it into a proper strategic discipline. He nodded, swallowing nerves. Major Shield launched into a lecture about how warfare across the galaxy typically revolved around linear doctrines. Species like the Brudak or the Trexans prized direct assaults, while others used advanced technology. Asymmetric warfare, she explained, was the art of leveling an uneven playing field through unconventional means. Leon recognized Earth's entire military history in her words. Humans had often relied on guerrilla tactics when outmatched. After class, Rollick cornered Leon near the hallway. "They're turning you into a teacher's pet of trickster tactics, huh?" He folded his muscular arms. "Some might say it's dishonorable." Leon felt anger flare, but he reined it in. "I'm just learning the courses they assign me. If you want to dismiss it as trickery, that's your choice." "But it works." Rollick snorted. "In a simulation, real combat is different." Before Leon could reply, they heard a loud chime echo through the corridors. A voice over the speakers declared, "Emergency alert. Remote Research Station Beta 9 has sent a distress call. All advanced level cadets assemble in Hangar 2 for briefing." The message repeated, each word weighted with urgency. Leon and Rollick exchanged a look, their rivalry momentarily overshadowed by the seriousness of a real crisis. Hangar 2 buzzed with activity as cadets and instructors hustled to prepare for deployment. Colonel Shard stood atop a command podium, explaining that the station Beta 9 was under attack by an unidentified raiding party, likely a rogue group of well-armed smugglers or mercenaries opposed to the Alliance. GWI was the closest military force in range. "We're dispatching advanced cadets under faculty supervision," Colonel Shard said firmly. "The mission: secure the station, rescue any civilians, and neutralize hostile forces." Teams were quickly organized. Leon found himself assigned to a squad with Kiara, Xirax, and, he almost sighed in frustration, Rollick Draver. Their officer, Captain Martraw, was a steely-eyed, silver-furred creature that Leon couldn't readily identify, but her authoritative presence was unmistakable. "We have intel that the enemy is not particularly numerous, but they're heavily armed and entrenched," she said. "Beta 9's life support is compromised. We'll board through a secondary airlock. Keep your suit sealed in case of atmosphere breach." They boarded a sleek dropship, strapping into seats as the pilot took them out of the station's docking bay. Leon felt his pulse spike. He'd never been in real combat beyond Earth's minor skirmishes. The planet Tressa V hung below, the GWI orbital station receding behind them. Soon, Beta 9's silhouette came into view, a smaller research facility drifting in space, battered by signs of recent conflict. Lights flickered across its hull, and occasional bright flares indicated weapons discharge. Captain Martra's voice crackled over the comms. "All right, cadets, remember your training. We have to secure the lower levels first. That's where the lab staff is barricaded. The hostiles seem to be focusing on the upper deck, possibly trying to hack the station's main computer. Keep your helmets on, watch your corners, and follow orders." The dropship latched onto a secondary airlock. The squad formed up behind the sealed hatch. Air hissed as the environment equalized. Then the hatch slid open, revealing a corridor illuminated only by emergency lighting. Leon's visor adjusted automatically, giving him a sharper view in the dimness. The team advanced cautiously, with Rollick up front due to his formidable physique. Leon hung back a bit, rifle at the ready, while Kiara and Xirax provided supporting roles. They encountered the first group of raiders near a junction. 3 figures in mismatched armor, armed with energy rifles. The hostiles opened fire almost immediately. Rollick roared, stepping forward to absorb the brunt of the barrage behind a makeshift shield. Leon darted into cover, returning shots with quick bursts. Xirax dashed along the far wall, ducking behind piping to flank them. Kiara lobbed a stun grenade that rolled across the floor, erupting in a flash. The enemy was blinded just long enough for the team to pounce. Leon fired 2 well-placed shots, dropping one attacker, while Rollick slammed another to the deck with a brute force strike. The third tried to flee, but Xirax intercepted, delivering a precise stun blast from behind. "Clear," Rollick growled. They took a moment to secure the raiders' weapons. Leon checked the corridor. The station's walls showed scorch marks, bullet holes, and occasional vented sections. The readouts on his visor warned of thinning atmosphere in certain compartments. The group pressed on, following Captain Martra's directions through the comm link. They found a sealed bulkhead that led to the laboratory levels. Kiara tapped into the station system. I can open it, she whispered, but we might trigger an alarm on the other side. The hostiles will know we're coming. Leon recalled the lessons from asymmetric warfare. What if we create a diversion first, he suggested. We can misdirect them to think we're entering from a different corridor. Rollick frowned. And how exactly do you plan that? Xerax's feathers ruffled with cautious excitement. I have a short-range transmitter that can loop false-comm traffic. If we plan it up the hall, it might fool them into sending their squads there. Captain Martra's voice chimed in, do it quickly. We want to minimize risk to the labs. The station can't withstand more damage. While Rollick grumbled about wasting time, Leon and Xerax placed a transmitter in a side corridor. Kiara manipulated the station's panel to mimic the sound of forced entry and footsteps. Over the comm, they heard the raiders confirm detection of movement in that fake corridor. The team then quietly unsealed the lab bulkhead. Inside, the labs were in disarray. Broken machinery, flickering lights, and shattered glass littered the floors. A cluster of station staff, 4 scientists of different species, hid behind overturned tables. They gasped as the squad entered. We were pinned down, one scientist said, voice trembling. Their main group is trying to access the server core upstairs. Captain Martra ordered them to evacuate back through the route the squad came, escorted by 2 other cadets from an adjacent team. That left Leon's group free to continue onward, deeper into the station, where they still heard occasional gunfire. The air seemed thinner. Leon's suit automatically compensated. They carefully ascended a service elevator shaft, prying open the doors near the upper deck. The corridor they emerged into was partially open to space, sealed off by a flickering force field. Debris drifted in the vacuum beyond. A sudden volley of shots made them flatten against the walls. A turret-like device had been rigged in the passageway. Rollick moved to charge it, but Leon grabbed his arm. Wait, that turret could cut you down. He pointed to a cluster of cables overhead. We can kill its power supply. Xerax sprang up with an impressive leap, slashing at the cables with a combat knife. Sparks erupted, and the turret sputtered out. Rollick shot Leon an inscrutable look, almost acknowledging that the human had just saved him from potential harm. Then they advanced. They soon reached the server control room, where a half-dozen raiders were busy interfacing with the station's main computer. Their leader, an imposing figure in heavy armor, turned and shouted, "Alliance scum!" Weapons fire erupted. The squad took cover behind a thick console. Leon scanned the room. There were tall metal racks, flickering monitors, and open ductwork near the ceiling. Rollick, stuck behind cover, hissed with frustration. We can't get close. They have vantage on the entrance. Kiara tried a stealth approach along the left side, but was driven back by heavy fire. Leon glanced upward, noticing the overhead duct access. Xerax, can you reach that duct and flank them from above? The Avrix nodded, leaping to latch onto a support beam. He crawled into the duct with surprising ease, disappearing into the darkness. Meanwhile, Leon asked Kiara for a flash device from her belt. On the count of 3, they lobbed it to the far side of the room. The raiders, anticipating an attack from the door, pivoted. The flash erupted in a searing burst. The leader roared an order, trying to regroup, but it was too late. Xerax dropped from the overhead duct behind them, unleashing precise stun blasts. Leon and Kiara joined from the front, and Rollick charged straight in, using his bulk to scatter the panicked raiders. A fierce close-quarters struggle ensued. The leader swung an energy blade, slicing a shallow gash in Rollick's shoulder. Rollick howled and retaliated with a colossal punch that dented the leader's armor. Leon fired off a shot that clipped another raider's leg, then yanked a console cover to block an incoming beam. Sparks flew. Kiara slid behind a server rack, seizing a moment to breathe. The leader reared back, about to unleash a heavy shot from a wrist-mounted cannon. Leon recognized the lethal threat and dashed in, ignoring the risk, hooking an arm under the cannon's guard to push it aside. The blast disintegrated a chunk of floor plating instead of hitting Rollick. Seizing the opening, Rollick hammered down on the leader's helmet, finally knocking them unconscious. One by one, the remaining raiders surrendered or were incapacitated. The room fell silent except for the crackling of damaged circuitry. Leon exhaled, adrenaline coursing through him. He looked at Rollick, whose chest heaved with anger and residual pain. The Brudak's eyes flicked to Leon with a conflicted expression. He didn't say thank you, but Leon saw grudging respect there. They had worked as a team, and it was Leon's quick thinking that saved them from the final assault. Captain Martra's voice came through the comm. Beta, 9 station is secure. Good work, squad. Help lock down the rest of the hostiles and return to the docking bay. Casualties are minimal. The scientists are safe. After the dust settled, the station's systems were stabilized, and the GWI personnel escorted the raiders into custody. The cadets were recalled to their dropship. During the flight back to the Institute, no one said much, drained by the tension of real combat. Leon leaned back in his seat, letting relief wash over him. This was the first actual field mission he had ever experienced off Earth, and it had gone about as well as he could have hoped. Maybe better. In the debriefing the next day, Captain Martra commended the squad. Tactically sound infiltration, minimal damage, and mission success. Good job, Carter. Your ability to strategize on the fly was instrumental. Draver, strong performance in direct combat, though you should coordinate more closely with your teammates. Rollick avoided Leon's gaze during the briefing, but didn't contradict the assessment. Later, Leon sat in the dormitory lounge with Kiara and Xerax, all of them exhausted from the mission. Xerax carefully preened a few ruffled feathers, while Kiara sipped a bright blue nutrient drink. Leon massaged a bruise on his arm. That was intense, he said quietly. I can't believe we made it through mostly unscathed. Kiara nodded. You see how real combat differs from training simulations. The unpredictability, the fear, but your approach proved valuable. They were joined by Rollick, whose shoulder was bandaged. He cleared his throat, looking faintly uncomfortable. You fought well, he told Leon, in a tone that approached politeness. For a human. Leon let a faint smirk touch his lips. Thanks, Rollick. Your charge was definitely terrifying to the enemy. He paused, remembering the critical moment in the server room. And for what it's worth, I'm glad we were on the same side. Rollick grunted, but he didn't deny it. It was a small truce, an acknowledgement that they each had strengths the other lacked. The aftermath of the Beta, 9 missions spread through the Institute. Rumors traveled quickly, praising the squads that had excelled. Leon's name came up frequently, either as a prime example of a creative tactician or as the subject of envy from those who disliked humans. But the official stance was clear. He had proven himself. His earlier success in the simulation wasn't a fluke. Days turned into weeks. Leon found that the instructors began consulting him during certain advanced classes on asymmetric warfare. He wasn't an official assistant, but his insight into thinking outside the box was valued. Kiara teased him once, saying, "You're like a rare exhibit, the human who can do more than just exist." But her eyes shone with genuine admiration. Xerax continued refining his lightning-fast maneuvers, sometimes trading tips with Leon about vantage points and infiltration methods. Meanwhile, Rollick became less openly hostile. They sparred a few more times, with Leon employing quick counters, though he still couldn't quite match Rollick's raw power. The difference was that now, Rollick seemed less intent on humiliating him and more on testing his own limits. One evening, while they rested in the lounge, a group of cadets from various species approached. One, a tall, feline-like alien, asked Leon, "Is it true your planet had multiple world wars with primitive ballistic weapons?" Leon nodded hesitantly. "We did. Humans had no advanced exoskeletons or force fields, so we had to rely on cunning and eventually nuclear deterrence. But it was costly, destructive. We learned a lot about the futility of direct confrontation, or at least we tried." The aliens seemed fascinated. "And yet you overcame your limitations to reach the stars. Perhaps that is why you adapt so well. It's in your nature." Leon offered a reflective smile. "Maybe. We're used to adversity. Life on Earth never was easy, but that forced us to grow." In the corridor behind them, Rollick lingered, listening. Leon caught his eye, but Rollick only gave a brief nod and went on his way. That was enough for Leon, a sign that bridging old prejudices was possible. Shortly thereafter, the Institute announced a special recognition ceremony. The Beta 9 mission had been a trial by fire for the new cadets, and the staff wished to honor outstanding performance. Leon, Kiara, Xerax, and Rollick were called before a formal assembly. Colonel Shard handed them commendations, praising their cohesive teamwork under pressure. The colonel then made an unexpected pronouncement. Furthermore, Cadet Carter's approach to misdirection and creative problem-solving has highlighted a gap in our traditional training. As such, we are instituting an additional module focusing on adaptive tactics, open to all. We believe that tapping into each species' unique perspective will strengthen the alliance as a whole. As they stepped away from the podium, Rollick muttered to Leon, "So now you're some kind of big shot." His tone was only half joking. Leon rolled his eyes but grinned. "If by big shot you mean someone who pays attention to little details and tries not to die in real combat, then sure." Rollick's ridged brow shifted in something approximating a smile. "Just don't get complacent, human. We Brudak are always looking to surpass anyone who stands in our way." "I'd be disappointed if you didn't try," Leon retorted. "I'll look forward to seeing who ranks higher next time." In the following weeks, Leon's schedule became busier. Between standard classes, daily drills, and the new module in adaptive tactics, he found himself constantly juggling demands. Kiara volunteered to help refine his strategic knowledge with psychological angles, like reading opponents' intentions or planting subtle misdirection cues. Xerax offered to do scenario run-throughs in the simulator, practicing infiltration under time pressure. Even Rollick, in his own gruff way, occasionally showed up to spar or discuss short-range assault techniques. They were forging a bond, an unlikely synergy of strengths. During one such session, Leon realized how far they'd come. Initially, he'd been the outlier, the butt of jokes about human fragility. But now, he had earned a seat at the table, so to speak, demonstrating that humans were as capable as any species given the right approach. In the final weeks of the training cycle, the GWI administration rolled out an official advanced exercise, a large-scale simulation combining multiple squads and objectives. The scenario, a mock infiltration of a hostile starbase with layered defenses. GWI staff designed it to be nearly impossible to fully complete, but offered massive prestige to any group that did well. Teams were selected randomly. Fate, or perhaps coincidence, placed Leon, Kiara, Xerax, and Rollick together again. When they saw the assignment on the board, each had a different reaction. Rollick's jaw tightened, Xerax's feathers rustled in excitement. Kiara smiled knowingly, and Leon felt a surge of confidence. They'd proven themselves in real combat before. A simulation challenge might be easier by comparison, though it would be more complex with GWI's advanced AI controlling the starbase systems. On the day of the exercise, they suited up. Rollick donned heavier armor, brandishing a large energy blade. Xerax carried a compact rifle, perfect for swift maneuvers. Kiara wore a form-fitting suit with multiple scanning modules for psychological detection of AI patterns. Leon had a standard-issue rifle plus a few custom modifications borrowed from the engineering labs. Their assigned infiltration route would lead them through simulated docking tubes, cargo holds, and eventually a central control nexus. The simulation began. The four of them stepped onto a platform that transported them into an immense virtual environment. Immediately, klaxons blared and turrets swiveled. Drones soared overhead. They took cover behind shipping crates. Rollick advanced, drawing fire. Xerax vaulted across catwalks to disable a security terminal. Kiara manipulated false signals to mislead a patrol of drones. Leon planted an improvised explosive device to collapse part of a walkway, creating confusion among the starbase defenders. Their synergy had improved drastically. Each species contributed a key aspect. Rollick's brute strength and fearlessness pinned enemies down. Xerax's speed allowed infiltration of otherwise unreachable spots. Kiara's psychological insight manipulated the AI's reaction cycles, while Leon orchestrated the overall plan, making micro-adjustments on the fly. They accomplished a series of objectives that earlier squads had found impossible, forging an efficient path deeper into the starbase. The overhead scoreboard soared with their success, but the AI was cunning. As they neared the final nexus, the starbase defense protocols tightened. Automated mechs deployed, heavier than standard drones. One unleashed a barrage that pinned the squad behind a half-crumbled corridor. The clock ticked, each second lowering potential points. Rollick proposed smashing through. Leon weighed the risk. Kiara pointed out that if they launched a frontal assault, they might be overwhelmed. Zirax suggested a multi-pronged diversion. Leon nodded. Let's do that. Rollick, cause a distraction up front. I'll flank left with Zirax and sabotage the mech's power couplings. Kiara, feed the AI false data about our location so it doesn't reroute reinforcements. They synchronized. Rollick charged forward, deflecting the initial shots. Kiara tapped a wrist console, flooding the starbase systems with contradictory signals. Leon and Zirax slipped around to the flank, leaping over debris. From behind a sparking conduit, Leon spotted a cluster of power lines feeding into the mech. He fired short, focused bursts, severing them. Zirax added precise shots, forcing the mech to overheat. In moments, it sputtered, losing mobility. Rollick dashed in with an energy blade slash, toppling it. The final stretch was a mad dash for the command chamber. Automated turrets sprang from walls, showering them with lethal beams. Kiara jammed half of them with software interference. Zirax used the last of his grenades to destroy a critical junction. Leon shot down 2 turrets in quick succession, each blast well-timed. Rollick took a grazing hit to the side, but kept going, refusing to slow. At last, they burst into the central chamber, overcame the last wave of drone defenders, and seized the starbase controls. The simulation froze. A calm voice announced, "Simulation complete. Scores uploading." Their names soared to the top of the scoreboard with a 97% completion rating. Second place was in the 80% range. The disparity was staggering. Even the instructors watching from observation decks were stunned. A hush fell as the reality sank in. This ragtag team had just shattered all prior records for advanced squads in that simulation. Leon locked eyes with Kiara, who smiled in disbelief. Zirax fluttered his feathers in triumph. Rollick allowed himself a quiet chuckle. When the simulation ended and they returned to the real environment, an eruption of applause greeted them from the gathered cadets and staff. Colonel Shard stood at the front, clearly impressed. "Remarkable work," he said simply. "This demonstration will shape GWI doctrine moving forward." In the post-exercise debrief, the instructors and commanding officers praised their synergy, pointing out that each member's unique strengths had meshed perfectly. And behind every comment loomed the fact that a human, the first in GWI, had been pivotal. The memory of that day in the training ring, when Rollick pinned Leon so easily, felt almost like a dream from a distant past. Another assembly was called, larger than the prior ceremony. The commandant addressed the entire institute, praising the accomplishments of the new wave of cadets. Leon, Kiara, Zirax, and Rollick stood in front, receiving official distinctions. "We, the Alliance, thrive on diversity," the commandant declared. "And these 4 have embodied that principle in the field and in our simulations." They reminded us that no single approach to warfare is sufficient. Only by integrating diverse strengths, by adapting to the unexpected, can we excel. When it was Leon's turn to speak briefly, he felt his stomach tense with nerves. But he forced himself to talk. For a long time, humans were considered too weak, too backward, or too unproven to stand among you all. We had to rely on cunning, improvisation, and centuries of learning from our own conflicts. We may lack your natural gifts, but we have hearts and minds just like anyone else. I hope that seeing what we can do together helps break down barriers. There's no reason a human can't contribute alongside a Brudak, a Cis-Sun, or an Avrix. He glanced at Rollick, who gave him a slight nod of agreement. The applause thundered through the hall. In the days following, Leon found he had less time to relax than ever. The Institute assigned him as a sort of unofficial consultant for a newly formed adaptive tactical response program. In practice, that meant demonstrating how to combine cunning, quick thinking, and cross-species collaboration to achieve results that pure brawn or advanced technology alone couldn't match. Rollick, after some initial grumbling, decided to join the joint training sessions, reasoning that any improvement in strategy would make him a more formidable warrior. Xerax assisted with infiltration techniques, while Kiara contributed psychological warfare lessons. Though Leon was busier than ever, he found a deep sense of belonging. He still missed certain things about Earth: the sunsets, the smell of fresh rain, the music of home. But for the first time, he felt that he had a genuine purpose out here. He was not just the experiment or the odd one out. He was part of something bigger. During one late evening, after a particularly exhaustive training session, Leon wandered to one of the station's observation decks. Through the transparent hull, he saw Tressa V below, swirling with blue and green landmasses. Beyond it lay the infinite stars. He remembered how, just weeks ago, he'd been riddled with anxiety about fitting in. Now, he had proven not only his own capabilities, but also the potential synergy between humans and other species. The galaxy was vast, but that meant the potential for growth was equally vast. As he stood there, footsteps sounded behind him. It was Rollick, nursing a bandaged forearm from an earlier practice bout. "Need a break from the crowd?" Rollick asked. Leon nodded. "Just thinking about how far we've come." Rollick stared at the planet below. "You taught me something human," he said quietly. "We Brudak are always told to fight with honor and strength, to never stoop to trickery or so-called cowardly tactics. But in real combat, survival and victory often depend on adapting. Maybe your approach isn't dishonorable. Maybe it's just reality. Still, I won't stop trying to be the best." Leon smiled faintly. "I'd be disappointed if you did. And I'll keep trying to meet you head-on in the ring. Maybe one day, I'll even beat you without having to rely on tricks." Rollick let out a deep chuckle. "We'll see." A comfortable silence settled between them, the rivalry still intact, but transformed into a mutual respect. Eventually, they parted ways. In the hallway, Leon encountered Kiara, who was reviewing notes on a handheld device. Rollick looked calm. She observed, "Am I missing something?" Leon shrugged. "I think we finally see eye to eye." "Sort of." Kiara's luminous eyes danced with amusement. "That's good. Our next big step is deciding how to structure the new adaptive curriculum. There's an entire set of psychological and tactical modules we can integrate. The instructors want your input, specifically how to push cadets to realize that brute force and advanced tech are not always the solution." Leon found himself excited by the prospect. "Let's do it. I'd love to make sure future cadets don't see humans or any so-called weaker species as worthless. Everyone's got a role to play." Kiara smiled warmly. "Couldn't agree more. Now, shall we go find Xerax? He's working on a training simulator that might blow everyone's minds. Some sort of advanced stealth infiltration puzzle. We can test it tonight if you're up for it." Leon suppressed a weary laugh. "Sure, let me just grab a quick bite to eat, and I'll join you." They walked down the corridor together, passing rows of dorm doors behind which countless other cadets of innumerable species studied or rested, each with their own dreams and challenges. Leon felt a sense of camaraderie and possibility. He still had so much to learn, so many ways to grow. But no one was laughing anymore about the idea of a human at GWI. Now, they were paying attention. They had seen his combat scores, his resourcefulness in real missions, and the synergy he brought out in his team. That was exactly how Leon wanted it. He didn't need universal adoration or even the top ranking. What he needed was a purpose and a place to contribute. And in the halls of the Galactic Warfare Institute, he had found exactly that.